I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at villageXchange@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed!
And a child shall lead them. So our first song of the Revo stream is Twisted Sister.
The name of the song is We're Not Gonna Take It, right? I'm pretty sure that this is like their classic song. It's something like School or something like that. I don't know if it's the same song, but they did a song about school, and that was like their big thing. Let's go, guys. The first song on the Revo stream. Dear listener, if you would like to be a DJ, reach out to Soraya or me, vinsori@gmail.com. We can hook you up. Also, if you're interested in the political world and you're a glutton for punishment and suffering, check us out at Middle America with Vin and Sori. Having said that, the moment has arrived. Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it anymore. People are mad about school. Let's go.
Pass the carrots, please.
It's a miserable ass.
Excuse, please.
Lyrics.
Yes, dear.
Uh-oh.
What is that? I know what that is. That's music.
Douglas, see, please. He's just a child.
Don't Douglas see me.
Miserable ass dad. I remember them days. I remember them days. My Ibanez.
All right, mister, what do you think you're doing? You call this a room? This is a pigsty. I want you to straighten up this area now. You are a disgusting slob. Stand up straight. Tuck in that shirt. Adjust that belt buckle. Tie those shoes. Twisted Sister. What is that? Wipe that smile off your face. Do you understand? What is that? A Twisted Sister pin on your uniform? What kind of a man are you?
Ah, here we go.
You're worthless and weak. You do nothing. You are nothing. You sit in here all day and play that sick, repulsive, electric twanger. I carried an M16 and you carry that Guitar! Who are you? Where do you come from? Are you listening to me? What do you want to do with your life?
I want to rock.
Oh my God! One riff sent it through the roof? Oh, getting men banging. This guy keeps getting abused through this video, bro. Alrighty then, that was Twisted Sister.
Yeah, I think
that chorus, I'm familiar with the chorus. This was not
Oh,
about
you
the
are?
school. This wasn't about the school. I thought it
No,
was about the school,
not
but
at all.
But I've heard, I'm certain I've heard that chorus. We're
You might
not
have.
gonna take.
Yeah.
I don't know where I heard it, but I'm almost damn near certain I've heard that chorus. The rest of the song, I had no idea. I was pretty certain this was gonna be like have a school theme to it. Remember I talked at the beginning?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Well, you know what?
And I was wrong again.
Wasn't there a song by the guy that plays Kung Fu Panda? Oh, I can't see it now.
Jack Black.
Yeah, Jack Black. He has a band, and there was something like that in there where the kid gets in trouble for playing rock music.
Yeah. Well, it was probably inspired by this video. Because these guys, see, people are saying, oh no, that's because the song just got blocked.
Yep, stream unavailable. Suspended.
Look.
What'd he say?
Look. He goes, YouTube's not going to take it. Okay, so apparently it was a pretty big hit song and video. And as we predicted, the stream got suspended a little bit because it was the official video, and that's okay. So that means okay, so this is what this means. If you're watching this, if you're watching this on regular YouTube, you missed the official video because our stream got completely blocked and canceled because we played the official video. And the filthy capitalist at the record label did that, so now you get to see the modified version. It doesn't matter.
I said, let me be petty here and say I told you so. Like a child.
We've been doing
Vin
this.
hates it when I do that with him.
We've been doing this for a little bit. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't stand I told you so. Especially when it comes from you. I can't tolerate it. It's intolerable when it comes from you.
So I decided I'll push that on other people.
The reason is because I'm usually right like 95% of the time, and I very rarely do I told you so. So then you get one time when you're right, and it's just
yeah. Well, why would I not?
Yeah, it's like my brother. He beat me in Street Fighter one time, and then he retired after that. He never played after that.
All right, so
this was Revo's plan all along. This is the revolution that made his namesake. Did I tell you about Kyrie? Like, she's the best. She's the funniest. Well, she's the funniest. Okay, don't stress it, Revo. Okay, don't stress it. We knew what was going to happen, but at the end of the day, when it's a DJ stream, the DJ runs the stream. We're just a facilitator. So you got nothing to apologize for, Revo. We're in it to win it. Okay. Having said that, let's go into the song. Okay, so this wasn't the school song, but you know.
Okay, so there's a couple things that I noticed from the song.
The beginning of the video was almost as long as the song. The song was like 3 minutes 25 seconds, and the beginning of the video was like 3 minutes long. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that. Well, I mean, I don't know why you're apologizing. I actually cut you off. I think that this song is very important, especially for the time period, because at that point in time, okay, when did this come out?
What was
84?
Okay.
I was gonna guess around then. There was a lot of pressure on kids to listen to certain types of music, and certain types of music were rejected for being satanic or evil, or you know what I mean. And Twisted Sister, I'm sure, was one of those that people didn't want their kids listening to. And so I think that there are so many kids that were in this situation.
Go ahead.
Where their parents hadn't acclimated to the music, and they'd come and shut it down, set up, pull up your, button your, all this different stuff, all this pressure that people put on their kids. And I think that in some instances, it's necessary. So for instance, I was talking to this woman, she was a missionary in Russia, and the living conditions were extremely difficult. And so she did not baby her son as he was growing up because she knew that he was going to need that strong resolve. And so, if he fell and she could see that he was okay and he wasn't seriously injured, she would let him find that, dig deep and get up on his own. He was very young. And I could see where she was coming from that. Well, on the other hand, you have parents who are expecting this sort of rigidness from their kids, button up, put all of that. And I'm saying, what's the reason for that? Is the reason for that because you're preparing them for something? Or is it because you don't want your kids to look a certain way in front of the rest of the neighborhood, the rest of your town and stuff? Are they a reflection on you to the degree that you feel devalued if they don't look or act a certain way? If that's the case, then you're going after them for the wrong reasons, and that needs to be abandoned.
Yeah. I mean,
how many careers were ended or never started because parents shut down the music industry to their kids?
Yeah, and this was it D.
There's
Snyder?
probably somebody listening right now that could have been a great.
D. Snyder was kind of like cross-dressing, right? Cause
that's what it looked like to me.
And, you know, they call the band Twisted Sister. It's a dude. I mean, this is the early 80s, like, you know.
Yeah.
And D was probably, 30 years old, so that means he was around in the 50s. So for him to show up kind of, blurring gender lines as a popular,
And calling himself a sister.
And the band is called Sister, and things are twisted. Like, a lot of these parents, I'm certain, because these kids, so these parents would have came up in their formative years in the 50s, right? And now you got these 80s kids who are like trying to eke out their own whatever, and now they're listening to these cross-dressing guys who are blurring gender lines, and you came up in the 50s. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now your kid is doing all that with the guitar and all. He's like, I carried an M16. Probably means he was, in Vietnam, probably. You know what I'm saying? Like a guy who that must have been such an interesting age gap, because all kids have an age gap with their parents, generationally speaking, but there are some that cover so many transitional moments. So I think that that generational gap in the 80s was probably the biggest gap.
I think,
maybe of the last 100 years. Because if you came up in the 50s, you came from a segregated nuclear family is the only family. It wasn't that they rejected other, iterations of what a family is. Literally all they thought was the nuclear family was the only kind of family that you would have. And men provided and shot people if the government told us to do that. And women stayed home and baked cakes and all that. That's the 50s. Okay. Then you had all the revolutions that happened in the 60s. And if you were a conservative, which this guy represents, you were on the complete wrong side of all of those revolutions in the 60s. Same thing about the 70s when you had the hippie movement and things like that.
Yep.
Okay. So that's around the time you would have had a kid in the mid 70s. Okay. So your kid is a baby. He's completely unconscious in the 70s as far as what's going on. But then again, that's another major transition going from, the hippie movement to what's now modern America. If you're a conservative, all this stuff is like stuff you cannot understand and you can't fathom, because you were on the other side of all of those cultural debates, but you lost all of them.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So now you've got a kid yourself, and your kid is now reflecting, America in the early 80s. So you know what I'm saying? It's like there's so many things that are going into the generation gap in the 80s that would trigger these parents, whether it's, you're listening to this cross-dressing person, like not even the sexual revolutionists in the 60s were doing that, at least not, explicitly. It was just a lot of, free love bra burning. But I could definitely see an older parent like us. We're there's almost no generation gap between us and our kids, because we're conversant with all their music. We understand their music. We introduced them to music. We're like, you haven't heard that. We introduced them to Eminem. I did. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's different now. Like the gap is not as stark now. If you're a parent and you want to understand your kids, like you can have a lot of frame of references. Whereas in that time period, man, I don't know. I think it was a terrifying time for those parents.
Oh, I'm sure. And when you think about like musical history, from my understanding, they didn't have stuff that kind of had that rock sound to it. When did rock and all that stuff become popularized? What year would that have been?
Say that again. What year did rock music become popularized?
Like rock and like harder stuff. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of classical. Everybody sitting around the radio together at night. Shout out to Biden. President
Biden to you.
President Biden. Everybody sitting around the radio. They weren't listening to hard rock. They were listening to classical stuff and whatnot. So when did it switch where there was more stuff like that available? What year would that have been?
Well, I think
that's the same time period.
I think it's
right?
a time period. Metallica.
It's a lot. It's a lot for a certain generation to take in and to change.
100%. 100%. 100%. And
like I said, sad because the father.
I could see a conservative parent, especially guys. Like conservative guys are generally the hardest people to get up with the times. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can see how it would be hard for, like, I feel like you would have said, let's say you were in that situation, I feel like you would have said, I carried an M16 so you could rock that guitar.
Well,
because
yeah.
you don't want to see an M16 in the hands of your kid.
Well, yeah, of course, but I'm a person who came into consciousness about American foreign policy post the Vietnam era. Okay? So when you're in the middle of getting propagandized by your government, you don't know so for example, I was all about the Iraq war.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really all about those wars. So
Right.
I mean, I'm against them now. I repudiate them now, but at the time,
You're all in.
You're all in. But
Yeah.
but at the same time, when one of the things that got me to really reconsider Iraq was Vietnam.
Oh, really?
Right? People were saying, look, bro, they lied us into Vietnam. We did all this nonsense with Vietnam and we shouldn't have been there. Cost a bunch of American lives and killed a bunch of beautiful Vietnamese people. Right? As a matter of fact, we've got Viet Cong every time. Yeah, right there. Look, see? Literally every single time. This guy. Go follow this guy on Twitter. He's got one of the most uplifting channels on Twitter because it's all landscapes and pictures and live action shots of Vietnamese people in their habitat, and it's unbelievably beautiful. Which, it just makes it even worse that we went to that country and napalmed those people and did all that shit to those people.
Yeah.
So, I had Vietnam to look at. What did a kid in the 60s have to look at? World War II. Well, we were heroes in World War II. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had the Korean War, you had a stalemate. But, I mean, the last major conflict, in the 50s, we just got out of World War II. That's when he came up. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so those were virtuous wars. Those were just wars. And so it would have been easy to get a guy to strap up and go to Vietnam.
Right.
Right? Because we were saying, that's the sound guy. We were saying, hey, we're the good guys. And it became very, very clear, Jane Fonda, like I'm not a fan of Jane Fonda, but it was clear that we were committing all these war crimes and all the rest of it. And then the way that the soldiers were treated when they got back is something that has never happened, not much in American history, but human history as a whole.
Yeah, that's just sad.
So that's the time period. So this song is like, I'm sure, I mean, it's 3 minutes long. I'm sure people are looking at it like, oh my God, like.
Well, I just feel like
it's a pop song. People are like, oh, it's a pop song, but I think there's a lot of They were trying to say something with that video. You see what I'm saying? Like they were trying to say something bigger than this is a 3.5 minute pop song is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think that they were understanding that if you were to be a fan of theirs and someone who was one of their avid supporters, you were going to inevitably, for the most part, especially if you were a kid, going to come up against controversies because of them. Right. So, in this video, they show up at the boy's house and confront the dad for the boy. But the boy still stood up for himself, but then they all come in and they help out with that. And so I think that there's got to be, if you feel that something is right and the rest of the world feels that it's wrong, and then someone smaller and younger than you throws in with you and agrees with you, and then they go through their own little mini persecutions because of it. I mean, any good leader or person would be like, oh, I hate that that's happening to them because I'm making my stand, but shout out to them for doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that this song was very important for this band to do, and I actually respect them for putting this song out. And shout out to all of our listeners that kind of went through this experience growing up. Their love of music and their love of art kind of led them down different paths, and this might have been, or another one might have been their thing, and their parents didn't understand it, didn't get it, because like you said, there was a generational gap. There's a lot of things, oh my gosh. So I went to get my hair done, and there was this older lady that was there, and she was like, excuse me. She asks my hairdresser, excuse me. She said, I don't know why when my messages are coming in, there's like a circle with like a line through it. And she's like, so for some reason it's not making any noise, and I don't know what's happening. I literally laughed out loud.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
I went, ha! Because I couldn't believe how ridiculous and simultaneously how cute that stupid question was. I said, your notifications are probably turned off. So anyway, there is a major gap, and I think that, you know, our parents are kind of like trying to like get into that gap and like be on their cell phones and stuff like that, but they don't get it as much as our generation does. And I think we understand our kids more than our parents could understand us because of so much change that was happening. So with that said, I think this song is extremely important. And it had a fun little sound to it, and I appreciated the video, and even especially like the part where the dad was yelling at the kid about it. I think that there are times you have to raise your voice to make sure the kids understand where you're coming from. But on something like this, I feel like, you know, the father was completely inappropriate in handling the situation this way and yelling at the kid in anger over this. But so shout out to all of our villagers who've been in this situation and yet survived, and here you are listening to our channel. We approve of you.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, yeah. Yeah, but I do think that there is something to be said about that, though. I really do. I think, you know, it's really interesting, like, and I don't want to be misinterpreted here, but there's a lot, you know, there's a big heavy primer in our community about, you know, our parents understanding us and things of that nature. And I think that that's important, obviously. But some of this is also, we need to try to get into the mindset of these people and understand them. Especially if you were an 80s kid and you had a bad experience with your parents, like trying to understand why they did what they did sometimes has a real healing effect on you. Because the more you look into their mindset and their mentality, the less and less it becomes about my dad was going after me versus my dad was terrified at a changing country and a country that he couldn't understand and he couldn't get his arms around. And so, you know, and so I became an icon or a symbol or the embodiment of a country that's left him behind, and he didn't know how to reconcile himself to that. That is a completely different narrative than my dad just hated me, which is how when you're a kid, you're not thinking about all those sociological ramifications and how that would affect the psychology of your parent. Yeah. You're just thinking he hated me.
Yeah. I think it's also, I do think there was a lot of fear because there was so much was unknown and so much was so 100%, new. 100%. And so if, you know, like, for instance, my parents were taught a lot by this local church, and the local church was very quick to literally demonize anything they didn't understand. And so, you remember the Furby toy?
Yes.
That weird thing? That thing was demonic. Remember, you could put them side by side and they would talk to each other and they would learn off each other. Like it was AI, you know, like very beginnings of AI for toys. And they said that it was demonic. So if you don't know anything about the topic and people that are around you that you respect and have been your teachers tell you those are demonic, if you love your kid, you don't want your kid around demon toys. Right. You know, so those parents were pulling out voice boxes on the toys. They were doing all kinds of stuff to try to protect their kids. Yeah. Now, it looks crazy because, I mean,
well, that's because it is crazy.
It is crazy.
It's objectively crazy.
What they were doing was, but why they were doing it wasn't crazy.
The motivation
was fear, and they were trying to protect their kids. Yeah. And so I think especially in that time period, like you said, cross-dressing, being gay, any of that stuff was completely unacceptable, like beyond the pale, unacceptable. And so this band is playing this music that was new sounds. They're dressing like that. It's just altogether too much for the parents. And they don't know why you like the song. They don't know if you like the song because the man has a wig and is dressed like a woman, or I don't know if he has a wig. Maybe that was probably his real hair. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? So I think that the parents were in a really complicated situation, and depending on the way that other people were talking to them about it or what people were saying about it, would really formulate their thoughts on it. And then, you know, sometimes extreme reactions happen, you know? Like probably now the parents look back, like my parents look back, whenever I bring up that we weren't allowed to watch Disney to my mom, she always goes, because it's embarrassing for her now. She's like, holy moly, like it was just way overboard. There's just too much stuff. It was way too rigid. But, you know, and like the music and like everything, like it was just very strict environment. But they were doing what they thought was right at the time.
100%. That's
you can't fault them for trying to do their best.
Yeah, but I just think that they, you know, and Tina's saying Twisted Sister was not cross-dressing, so So she'd know more about it than us.
Well, no. Maybe
But-
they weren't cross-dressing, but to a family that looks at, he was wearing pink clothing.
Right.
He had makeup
Long
on.
hair,
And he had
long
long
hair,
hair.
and then, you
so
know,
regardless of
yeah.
if you want to categorize it as cross-dressing or not, to a conservative parent, that was at least on the verge of cross-dressing. He's dressing like a woman, and that would be completely unacceptable. The man shouldn't be in pink like that. No makeup, no,
Yeah. No, I get
and
it.
we understand, Tina, the men were wearing makeup and wigs and all that way back then, but that's not the context my parents were coming from. They were wearing heels way back in the whatever year that was. So,
Sure.
But that wasn't in our parents' consciousness. It was.
Yeah, it was not mainstream. That's the
Yeah.
issue, is that a band like this mainstream's kind of blurring things, and for a conservative, and as I was saying, like he's saying, they didn't protect their kids. The majority of those kids grew up messed up in the head, hating any kind of religion. I'm lucky and blessed enough to have truly found God and love. Shout out to Daniel. Yeah, I get that. For me, it's more...
But that wasn't their goal.
I'm just saying, try to understand your parents more in the therapeutic sense, that I just think it's if you understand why they were the way they were, you can take it less personally, although sometimes it was a I'm attacking you personally thing.
Right.
For example, if the kid was gay.
Yep.
That's I'm attacking you
Or
personally.
even the way the father was talking to this kid in the song.
Yeah, and parents, man, like parents, you really gotta check what you're saying to your kids, man. And there's like 2 or 3 phrases that my mom used that like I remember to this day, and I'm pretty sure if she could have taken it back, she would have, and and that's why I'm very intentional about talking to the kids and checking in with them. As a parent, you got to do that. You got to say, hey, how are we doing? How are you doing? Tell me in the last 30 days something I've said that's really hurt you. And look, sometimes, and I tell the kids, just because you were hurt doesn't mean you were wronged. But I want to know, right? Because, and I do a little 30-day check-ins because it gives me time. It gives me and the kids time away from the issue so that our emotions are not as, high.
Yeah.
And then, they can say, and I can hear with a little less defensiveness and stuff. But just, all those kinds of things. Anyway, I got to give this a 10.
Me too.
I got to give it a 10
too.
because very relevant, still relevant, and definitely a popular song and very radio friendly, I'm sure. But they were saying a lot of really deep stuff here.
100%.
That is timeless for parents, obviously, and kids. So what did you give it?
I gave it a 10 as well.
There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone. All right, guys. That was Twisted Sister. Holy moly. Good first shot out there. A shot of the classical. That's got to be one of their more popular songs, I'm sure. I agree they had my best intentions in mind. I just wish I understood that earlier in life kids will be kids though. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
I don't know why parents are not encouraged to have those check-in conversations with their kids. I think that would be it's been very helpful for us for sure.
Well, I think that times
What's
are
up, Becky?
changing in the sense that back when, I'll go with my father's parents. Back when my father's parents were raising them, they didn't have a lot of the modern conveniences. A man went and he worked all day long. My grandfather worked so many hours, it was ridiculous, and he barely made any money.
And moms worked harder
I'm
than
just talking
today
about
too,
their particular
because there were no
situation.
babysitters, and you had about 4 or 5 kids.
Right. And so my grandmother was my meme. She was raising all the kids. She was taking care of the house. She was doing all the things that she was doing on her. I think that there just wasn't a whole lot of time. And because times were so hard, she was probably like, they were probably just trying to survive. I think survival was more of a thing than it is now. Like now I think that there's so many different side projects that people have, like side hustles and stuff like that. Like I think that there can be more time. I think we spend a lot more time on TV than our great grandparents did.
Oh.
Stuff like that. Like there is more time.
100%.
Also, Revo, I could email this, but it would be just easier for me to just say it out loud. So I don't see the songs that you listed for us to do today. I don't see them on your list on Trello. So if you can if you can, I don't know if you're changing some of the songs that are on Trello to be those. If you can change them, so I have something to click off as we get it done. If that makes sense to you. If it doesn't make sense to you, send me an email.
Okay. Can we go into the next song? Next song now, you weirdo? No?
No. Yeah, we can. Okay, so the next one is... Do you have it?
Well, I was just setting up my buddy Revo right there. Boop.
Okay, Shin Yong Hyun. Beautiful Rivers and Mountains. That I can read.
Okay, I'm gonna put. Okay, all right, guys, we got the next song on the way. There's my buddy Revo right there.
Oh, he wasn't on the screen before.
He wasn't on the screen for the first
Hi,
one, inshallah.
Revo.
We shall return. We shall return, you brats.